This is the Etsy Conversations podcast resources episode number 14. My name is Chizara. Thank you for listening to the final episode for 2016, hosted by my Auntie Ijama.
Welcome to the Etsy Conversations podcast, featuring inspiring interviews with Etsy shop owners, hosted by Ijama Elazu.
Hi, and welcome to this final episode of the Etsy Conversations podcast resources episode. That was my niece, and she was so excited to do this. It took like 23 different takes, and finally I had to record her when she didn't know I was recording her so that we could get one in where she wasn't feeling extremely nervous. So I thank you for sticking with me throughout 2016. In this episode of the resources series, I'm going to be covering the final email that we received from Etsy and Etsy Success newsletter, and it covers the top articles of 2016. I'm also going to be making a special announcement at the end of this, but first I'll review what the top articles are. I don't know what Etsy's criteria was for selecting the top articles, if they were the most read or the most popular ones or the most helpful as measured by maybe the number of comments that were received. I'm not quite sure what the criteria was, but per Etsy, these were the top articles of 2016. Article 1 is Tips for Getting Featured on Etsy. This was originally published on April 26th, 2016. And these are the do's and don'ts to improve your chances of getting featured by Etsy's editors and merchandisers. So here's a list of what to do if you want your product to appear in Etsy emails or to have your shop story told on the Etsy blogs. Be aware that Etsy merchandising specialists look for different things than an Etsy blog editor would look for. A merchandising specialist will be looking for themes to create an Etsy Finds email. If you ever receive those Etsy Finds email, those are coming from the merchandising section, whereas a blog or seller handbook editor will be looking to interview sellers who can share savvy business tips. So here are the goals for each of those. For Etsy Finds, they're looking to drive traffic to Etsy. That's what the Etsy Finds emails, that's the main goal of the Etsy Finds emails. For the editor's picks emails, those are meant to drive traffic into the Etsy marketplace where shoppers can fully experience all the products that Etsy has to offer. And in the Quit Your Day Job and Inspiring Workspaces emails, those are meant to highlight compelling stories that reflect the rich diversity of Etsy shop owners and their experiences selling a variety of products from around the globe. So that's what each of these different Etsy admins who are looking for Etsy sellers to feature are focusing on when they're perusing the Etsy website and your Etsy shops. So here are the do's. Number 1 is make your shop easy to find. And you do this by using search-friendly titles and tags to make it easy to find your shop and items in Etsy search. So if they can't find you, they won't know you're there. So make yourself easily found. 2, well, not number 2, but the next tip under making your shop easy to find is choose straightforward descriptive titles that contain the most important words at the beginning. So there you have it. Put your most important words at the beginning of your titles. And then use all 13 available tags. Be sure to use words and phrases that people are likely to search for when looking for your item. Tip number 2, focus on photography. You've heard this so many times from other sellers on the podcast. And here's what Etsy says. So highly stylized editorial style photos like you would see in a magazine or on a style blog can make a really strong first impression and pique the interest of these Etsy admins who are looking for people to feature. Use all 5 photo spots and include straightforward shots that capture your product's details. Photos should be crisp and clean. They should be in focus and in bright, uncluttered environments with plenty of natural light. Also, they do say you should avoid watermarks in your images, which I know for people who sell digital downloads and downloadable files, this might be an issue because I see that a lot of them, I shouldn't say a lot of them, but a lot of sellers who have these products do put watermarks, and that's, I guess, to protect their images from just, people, unscrupulous people who don't want to pay and try to download. So, but Etsy advises against that. Also, with regard to focusing on photography, use seasonal props and place your products in context. Doing this will increase the chances of having your product featured in trending stories and lifestyle stories. Tip number 3, develop your brand. And to quote the Etsy merchandising specialist Emily Bidwell, the best thing you can do to improve your likelihood of getting any feature, both on Etsy and outside of Etsy, is to develop your brand through careful building of your image presentation and product line. That's a mouthful. So basically, what she's saying is they look for good product photography, unique items, and beautiful visual branding. Highlight your branding through your shop graphics, packaging, and your about section. And this is an aside. This is not in the article. This is just me telling anyone who's listening, who's looking for a business opportunity. If you have an eye for things like this, for graphics and design and visuals, you might consider offering branding services for Etsy shops because it matters. Tip number 4, tell your story. A completed and well-crafted about section can help you get found for a feature. Your about section should have a well-written description of your brand's origin story, your creative process, and what inspires you. So use pictures and video to capture where you work, and this in particular can catch the eye of an editor who's hunting for a feature in the Inspiring Workspaces series. So they in particular are looking for where you work and what your workspace looks like. So there you go. Also, you can simply use the seller handbook pitch form to pitch your story. Did you know that there was such a thing? This was actually news to me because apparently, I guess I missed this particular article. But Etsy has a pitch form where if you feel like they're not finding you and you think you're findable, you can actually just submit yourself to be featured. And there's a link that that will take you to the form. If you don't know how to find it or you can't find it anywhere, email me at interview@convome.com. I will send you a link to the pitch form and you can go ahead and just apply and then save yourself waiting till someone at Etsy finds you. Now, also regarding your about page, I'm also going to quote Etsy's senior editor, Julie Schneider, who in the article said, "When a shop's about section delves into specific real-life journeys and turning points, overcoming adversity, inventing a new product to meet a need, how the business has affected the person's life, this is a sign that there could be a good story there. Without this type of meaty information, it's harder to discover a potential profile-worthy story." So basically, they want to know you, like really know you, not the glossed-up version of you, and determine if there is a story behind you and your shop, and that will catch their eye. So use your about section wisely. Don't be afraid to tell a story that's outside the box. It seems like that's actually what they might be looking for, is people who aren't just run-of-the-mill everything. Tip number 5, be transparent. Use your About section to share who works for your business. Be sure you list shop members, including yourself, with pictures. And if you use any product assistance, also list that as well. And don't forget also to link to your social media accounts, your blog, your website, anywhere else you can be found, just so people know how to find you and that you're out there. Tip number 6, sell great products. That kind of goes without saying, but take the time that you need to develop a strong product collection and keep it fresh. The more products actually they said you list, the more chances you have to be discovered. And that kind of makes sense. If you have more ways to be found, then it's going to be easier to find you. Tip number 7, market your expertise. Basically, if you know about it, then brag about it. That's just the bottom line of this tip. If you have a story or expertise that you think could benefit fellow sellers, then spread the word. You learned, what was I going to say? It could be something that you learned in the course of building your Etsy shop, or it could be something that you're trained in. But if there's something you know really, really well, then let them know that you have good information to share that could benefit the community, and that also could get you featured. Also, with regard to marketing your expertise, share your experiences and engage with other sellers by leaving comments on articles in the Seller Handbook. I think they do read those and look at what people are saying. I don't know. It didn't say in the article that they do, but if they're suggesting that you leave comments and engage in the Seller Handbook, then they probably are looking at who's saying what, and it's just easy enough to click over and go to your shop if they see you in the comment section. So that's an easy one. Again, being direct doesn't hurt. If you would like to write an article or provide your expertise on a particular topic, then use the pitch form that I mentioned earlier to pitch your idea to the folks at Etsy. Tip number 8, model excellence in everything. In customer service, your product descriptions, how you represent your business, everything. Be considerate also when you're posting on Etsy and social media channels. By being an active and helpful community member within the Etsy community, you'll draw positive attention to your shop. Keep your social media accounts up to date as well, so you're easily reachable and respond to Etsy convos in a timely manner. Now, here are the don'ts of the tips for getting featured on Etsy. Do not. 1, lack of originality. Be unique and original. Don't infringe on anyone else's intellectual property or other rights. Make sure you have the appropriate permission to use the images and designs or other content that you use in your work. If you have questions about this, then definitely consult a lawyer or a legal expert. Also, be sure you review Etsy's intellectual property policy. They do have one. It's available. Familiarize yourself with it. Lots of stuff goes down on Etsy, so you want to make sure you're on the right side of all that legal stuff. Tip number 2 for things not to do in order to get featured. Number 2, missing information. Fill in any missing information like your shop location. In particular, having your shop location will help Etsy editors when they're looking for shops in a certain area. Fill out because they do go and visit some shops too. I don't know if you're aware of that. I've mentioned it on the resources episodes before. Fill out your shop policies. Doing this puts buyers at ease, and people are just more comfortable if you're upfront and they know what they're getting into before they go into a business contract, i.e. buying a product from you. If you don't have your shop icon, your cover photo or profile photo, go ahead and put those all where they need to be. Tip number 3 of the don'ts is policy violations. Make sure you familiarize yourself with Etsy's seller policy and Etsy's house rules so that you ensure that your shop is compliant. there's a full list available from Etsy of the requirements that they have for being featured. And so if you want that entire list, it's available on Etsy. If you don't know where to navigate to find it, just send me an email and I will send you the link, and you can see all what they require for you if you do want to get featured. Okay, that was the first article. The second top article from Etsy for 2016 was The Ultimate Guide to Telling Your Etsy Shop's Visual Story. That article was released March 15th, 2016. And basically it provides the tips for creating a strong visual brand through your cover photo, shop icon, and shop photography. So tip number 1, write a visual story. Etsy is very visual. You probably got that already. So with regards to writing a visual story, consider what you want to communicate about your brand. Jot down words that describe your shop's style. Then decide on colors, fonts, and photo styling that align with the style that you just described. Everything doesn't have to match, but try to make your cover photo and your shop icon and your product photography all complement each other. As a rule of thumb, you should choose one dominant color and 2 secondary colors. I think that's a style guide somewhere. That was in the article, that didn't come from me. Tip number 2, design a shop icon and a cover photo. These 2 elements should convey what your business is all about in the blink of an eye. So as soon as someone lands on your shop, your cover photo and your shop icon should tell them right away what your business is all about. So here are the essentials for your shop icon. It should look good in many different sizes, because while on the main Etsy website it's shown at its full size, which is 500 by 500 pixels on your shop's homepage, it will appear quite small in a shopper's homepage feed. Other things that you should consider is, 1, is it easily understood? If someone looks at it, do they know what you're trying to say? Your shop icon should communicate the look and feel of your shop at a glance. Can it scale down? It should be legible even at small sizes, so be sure to preview it at different sizes, because it might look good on your homepage, but that might not translate well at smaller sizes. And then also avoid too much text in your shop icon, because when that gets squeezed down into a smaller space, it's going to be almost impossible to read if there's too much text within it. Again, with your shop icon, is it memorable? Here's what Samuel Sherman, who's the senior art director on Etsy's brand design team, says. Simple and minimal logos and icons are going to be more recognizable. End of quote. Basically, that means you should make it such that folks who've favorited your shop or bought from you in the past can quickly recognize your shop icon. Now, here are the essentials of the cover photo. It's displayed across the entire width of your shop and on mobile devices and in the Etsy app. And the ideal size is 3,360 pixels by 840 pixels, while the minimum size you can make it is 1,200 pixels by 300 pixels. Here are some other things to consider. 1, in your cover photo, you might consider highlighting your best photography. The space that you have for your cover photo is wide, but it's also short. So think horizontally when you're composing your shots. The other thing to consider, and I mentioned this already, is use text sparingly. If you're going to include your shop name in your cover photo, then Etsy suggests you keep the text in the center of the photo and make it big enough to read on mobile devices. Also, get creative. Experiment with repeating patterns, fields of color, photos of your workspace, or unique fabrics or designs that represent your products. And of course, keep it fresh. You can use your cover photo to reflect changing seasons, gift-giving holidays, milestones, and special occasions. But don't change it too frequently though, because keeping it consistent will help you build a recognizable brand. So there's kind of a fine balance. You have flexibility to change as you need to, but then you also want to keep some consistency with your brand so that there you gain this brand recognition. Tip number 3, introduce yourself with a profile photo. And basically, they suggest that using a friendly picture of yourself as a profile photo builds trust with buyers. And it's true. If you see a picture of someone, then it puts a face to that business. So you should upload a square image that's at least 400 by 400 pixels, and your face or the faces of you and whomever else, if there's more than one person who runs the shop, your faces should fill at least 70% of that square frame. The link under the picture, your profile picture, will have your name, and that will lead, when people click on that link, it leads them to your public profile on Etsy. So you want to make sure that you update that page if you haven't done so in a while, and make sure the information there is current. Tip number 4, work your product images. Your product photography should align with the color palette and aesthetic that you established with your cover photo and shop icon. Backgrounds don't have to be uniform, but they should be cohesive with your visual brand. Again, not everyone has an eye for this. And if you don't, you might want to look around and see, ask around if you know people who might have an eye for visuals or design, or get help if you need it, basically. I know I need it. I just haven't found anyone to work with. Then mix it up. Show multiple perspectives of the same image. Show variations if it's appropriate. And use pictures to show your products in use as well. That helps put things in context for buyers. Then also make sure that your first image communicates the strongest message, because it will also be used as your listing thumbnail. Number 5. Don't forget about your about section. I feel like we just talked about this before, but it's in this article, so it must be important. Show real people. Now, pets are cute and all, and I like to look at a cute dog or cat or whatever any day. But Etsy suggests that you use pictures of people to represent members of your shop, and actually pictures of the people who they actually are to represent the members of your shop, because it gives a more personal feel and it invokes trust. I already mentioned that from the other article. Also, use the photo carousel. These are rotating images and they can help to support your shop narrative. Show action pictures of yourself making stuff, or of your workplace, and of whatever else happens, and whatever else helps to communicate your shop's story. Also, they suggest that you add a shop video. We finally have the ability to add video. I know over the first couple of years of doing the podcast, when I would ask sellers, what's a feature you would like to see Etsy provide? Video was one that just kept coming up over and over and over again. And now we have it, and Etsy is encouraging you to add a shop video that highlights your processes and inspiration, because again, it can serve as yet another trust builder. I think you're kind of getting the idea that if you build trust, it will help you all around in your shop, and to get more sales and what have you. All right, on to the third most, I don't want to say most popular, but the third top article for 2016 on Etsy. It was titled, "I Think I've Been Copied. Now What?" And this went live on May 3rd, 2016. Here's what the article says. Here are the steps you can consider taking when you spot work similar to your own. First and foremost, researching your options. Even though you might consider something as, quote, copying, it may fall under a wide range of activity that may or may not actually be infringement. For example, if someone creates an image that looks like yours, but is different from someone, scratch that. Someone creating an image that looks like yours is different from someone using a trademarked name in a misleading way or posting a picture you took without your permission. In the US, and this article mainly referenced US copyright information because, well, I guess the person who wrote it is more familiar with US copyright law. Anyway, so she says, in the US, original works such as artistic, literary, and musical creations are protected by copyright from the moment the work is created. And even though registration is not required, in the US, registration does give you certain benefits when it comes to enforcing your copyright. Now, also note, everything isn't copyrightable. For example, titles, names, short phrases, slogans, familiar symbols or designs, ideas, procedures, methods, or processes. And this is per the US Copyright Office. So some things you just can't put a copyright on, apparently. Trademarks. Now, trademarks generally refer to works or symbols that identify and distinguish the source of goods, like a brand logo. But not every trademark can be registered or protected. Now, neither Etsy nor I can provide legal advice or assistance with filing legal action. But if you believe that content on Etsy infringes on your intellectual property rights, you have two available options on Etsy. Your first one is to reach out to the person you think is infringing on your IP rights. Etsy suggests that you send a polite note via Etsy Conversations, not this podcast Etsy Conversations, but the Etsy Conversations messaging system, to the person that you think is infringing on your rights. Because, as they say, inspiration can come from anywhere. So there is a possibility that your great minds thought alike, and maybe the person came up with the idea independently of your idea. So that's option number one, is try and talk it out. Option number two is filing a report. And you can use Etsy's online reporting form to file a notice of infringement. This does exist. So here's what will happen when you file a notice of infringement using Etsy's online reporting form. First, Etsy will deactivate the reported content and notify the seller by email. Now, if the seller happens to be a repeat offender, then Etsy may just close down their shop altogether. After this happens, after the reported content is deactivated, then Etsy does realize that the system can be abused. So Etsy's legal department screens these notices of infringement for potential abuse of the reporting system. Because, hey, somebody might just be trying to get back at somebody else for whatever reason. So apparently they screen for that type of activity. Anyway, all right. So let's say an accused seller, quote, accused seller, decides to file a counter notice to dispute your claim of copyright infringement. Then this is a formal way of notifying you that that other person has a good faith belief that your notice was maybe filed by mistake, or not filed by mistake, but maybe you mistakenly thought that they copied you and they really didn't, or you think that that's your design or what have you, but it really isn't. So basically, if you file against them, they have the opportunity to counter that and, say, no, I did not copy that person. If that happens, if this other seller files a counter notice, then Etsy will notify you, the one who initiated the initial filing, the online report, of the counter notice. And let's see what happens. Oh, it's kind of a complicated well, it's not complicated, but there are many steps. So Etsy will notify you of a counter notice if there is one. Once Etsy notifies you that a counter notice has been filed, then you will have 10 business days to inform Etsy that you filed an action seeking a court order against the other seller. So basically that means if they counter your what's the word? Accusation, I guess. Then Etsy will let you know that they've countered. Then you need to go to the courts and file a court order against the seller. Then I guess at that point it you need to take it off Etsy. Well, I don't know if off completely, but you need to take it to the courts. And if you don't do anything within 10 business days, then the other seller is can go ahead and relist the items. Whew, okay, that's a lot. That's a lot to go through. And I know there's, I've heard there's a lot of copying that goes on Etsy. It's a whole thing. I'm not a lawyer, so I can't give too much advice there. Now, also, the article says, basically, by establishing your brand identity and building a following, this can help buyers to distinguish between what's yours and what's an imitation. Okay, that one was complicated. On to the next article. 6 ways to boost traffic to your Etsy shop. This was published on July 19th, 2016. So, in order to get more traffic that leads to actual sales, Etsy suggests you use these marketing tips and strategies, and they were submitted by experienced sellers. So tip number 1, get to know your target customer. You need to understand the customers who are most likely to buy from your shop. Researching your ideal customer will make your messaging and your marketing more effective, which will result in a higher conversion rate. Knowing who you're marketing to means that you can update your photo merchandising, your item descriptions, and tags accordingly. Your target customer is defined by a series of characteristics, including hobbies, demographic details, interests, and everyday challenges. I have a conversation coming up with a seller who has done just a phenomenal job of pinpointing who her target customer is. And you'll get to hear that, I believe it's towards the middle or end of January. And I think that will be very helpful with this point. So basically, by getting to know your target customer, when you're making business decisions, you should always ask yourself, does this choice fit my ideal customer? Now, here's tip number 2 for ways to boost traffic to your Etsy shop. Spread the word with social media. So start out with the platform you're most familiar with from personal experience, and that will help to decrease the learning curve. Create a complete profile with all pertinent business information included in your profile, which means make sure you have an image, contact information, and link to your Etsy shop. And then be sure you're sharing engaging posts and post consistently. Tip number 3, branch out with a blog, but make sure that when you do, you provide value to visitors while at the same time you're building trust. Tip number 4, tap into your network with a newsletter. Newsletters are a very powerful form of direct marketing that can help you increase sales, helps to boost awareness, and then also bolster your brand loyalty. It's like when you consider what having a newsletter is, it's the difference between talking to a stadium full of thousands of random people and talking to a room of, say, 100 people who just adore you and everything you do. So with regard to your newsletter, you need to create a really good opt-in offer, something that provides value to your ideal customer and makes it easier for them to decide to share their email address with you. People are really protective of their email addresses nowadays, and so you have to make it worth their while to give that up to you. And these opt-in offers could be anything like a discount code or free shipping or a free gift with the purchase of something or a free printable, just something worth their while to say, okay, here's my email address, you can have it. Then you're also going to need to sign up for a newsletter service. I believe Etsy is integrated with MailChimp. I started off with MailChimp. It didn't really work with my head too well. I now use MadMimi and I love MadMimi. Then also put your opt-in offer everywhere. Include it in your shop announcements, in your message to buyers that appears on their receipts. Let people know that they can sign up and get more information from you and get more from you. Tip number 5, collaborate with like-minded partners. So contact high-profile bloggers and Instagrammers about sponsorship. And sponsorships can sometimes involve a fee for services or an exchange of goods. So be ready to pay in some form or another when it comes to sponsorship. You can also collaborate on product development. So basically you can partner with someone whose brand complements yours and which fits your ideal customer as well. And then finally, tip number 6, develop a strategy for promotions and giveaways. And when you're going through a slow season, a great way to boost engagement and exposure is by doing a giveaway or offering a discount code. And that's it for that. So those were the top articles from Etsy for 2016. Going into 2017, as you know, postal rates are going up. There's also an article in there regarding the 2017 shipping rate changes for USPS, FedEx, and Canada Post. And I will apologize right now to anyone who is outside the US and Canada that doesn't use these services. This part of the podcast might not pertain to you, but you can skip forward a few minutes to get to the announcement I'm going to make at the end of this, or you can just listen in. So USPS, FedEx, and Canada Post, all 3 of these services are offered through Etsy shipping labels, and their rate changes are automatically reflected on packages that you ship using the Etsy shipping system. As well as for US sellers that use calculated shipping. The rate changes are going to take place in waves. For FedEx, the rate changes are going to go into effect beginning January 2nd, 2017. For Canada Post, they go into effect beginning January 16th, 2017. And for USPS, the United States Postal Service, the rate changes will begin on January 22nd, 2017. So here are the key changes that are happening. For USPS, all international mail rates are going to stay the same for 2017. Woohoo! So if you're not shipping internationally, or if you are and you thought this might affect your international shipping, don't worry. 2017 international shipping rates are not changing. If you aren't yet shipping internationally, go ahead and do it. The price is not going to be any different, and there's a whole market that you're missing out on if you aren't already. Now, there's going to be a 4.1% average increase for domestic first class packages, a 3.9% average increase for domestic priority mail rates, and a 3.4% average increase for domestic priority mail express rates. Okay, everything except international is going up essentially. For FedEx, both domestic and international FedEx Express rates are going to be increasing by an average of 3.9%. Domestic FedEx ground rates will increase by an average of 4.9%. And the formula for calculating dimensional rates is changing as well for FedEx. So what this means is that if you have a large package that is kind of lightweight, because of the size, because of the dimensions, the price actually might increase, even though by weight it's not any heavier than what you've been sending in the past. Now, for Canada Post, overall domestic shipping services are increasing by an average of 4%, and services to the US will increase by an average of 3%. International shipping services will increase by an average of 3%, but now signature confirmation is required on all shipments with a liability coverage of $200 or more. Then, with regard to air stage offices, priority is no longer available on shipments to air stage offices. Okay, so here are some tips for updating your shipping rates in your shop. If you use Etsy shipping labels, and this primarily only is geared towards, again, just sellers in the US and Canada. Sorry, everyone else. But US and Canadian sellers are encouraged to use the Etsy shipping labels feature because it will keep your shipping costs down and will save you time. I use Etsy shipping labels and it really is a time saver. I do love it. You also get a discount compared to if you were to go into a retail counter and pay, and you most likely you'll get tracking and delivery confirmation at no extra charge. For everything I've ever sent using the Etsy shipping, I do get tracking and delivery confirmation at no extra charge. So that's a really nice feature. Orders are automatically marked as shipped in Etsy, so it saves you an extra step of going back into the order and marking that it's been shipped. And also, you can purchase parcel insurance for both domestic and international orders through Etsy shipping. Now, for calculated shipping, currently this particular service is only available to US sellers. So, sorry to the rest of the world. Calculated shipping will allow you to have accurate USPS shipping rates automatically calculated for both single or multi-item orders to both domestic and international destinations. So here's how you set it up. If you go to your shipping section, select the calculate them for me in parentheses, recommended. Then go to add items, weight, and dimensions. Then go to destinations, and then to shipping methods. The shipping methods you can then select which ones you'll be offering your buyers. Also, you can add calculated shipping to multiple listings at once by creating a calculated shipping profile. So if you need to make any updates, it's one step and you're done once you set it up. Then going forward, whenever USPS rates change, and the shipping costs of changes, if you're using calculated shipping, those your shipping costs will automatically be updated, and you won't need to do anything. You won't need to lift a finger. Well, except if you're going to be sipping your tea as you marvel at the fact that you don't have to do anything. All right, so that's it for the resources episode and the updates. And finally, here's the announcement I want to make. I've been working on this for a while now. I stalled and then started again and stopped and started again, just because it just takes time and it takes resources. But in 2017, I'm going to be launching the Etsy Conversations membership site. And on the membership site, I will be offering premium audio content. Yes. So what you get now through the Etsy Conversations, if you're subscribed in iTunes or Google Play or Stitcher or wherever, you will still get that. Nothing is changing. You will still hear all the interviews that I do for the Etsy Conversations podcast free of charge. Nothing changes there. However, if you want access to more Etsy related information, more educational information, things like the Etsy Success Newsletter info, where I read these to you, strategies for selling successfully on Etsy, then that is now going to be premium content, and that will be available only to paid members. And I will be adding new content on a weekly basis as Etsy releases new information and new strategies for selling. I will be making audio versions of that. So if you find that you never really have time to read all the emails that you get from Etsy or all the articles they put out on their blog, that will be available to you in audio format. Also, if you're a new seller or you've been selling on Etsy for a while and you've never really had a chance to go through the Etsy Seller Handbook, which is continually growing and getting updated, I'll be reading reading information in there to you, basically converting it into audio format so that instead of having to sift through pages on a website, you can actually read and then listen and then follow along. And I'll be adding new modules monthly, and it will all be structured just like the Seller Handbook. So whereas you would go to read an article, you can actually go and just listen to it and walk through it. And then over time, I'm also going to be providing PDF downloads, basically cliff notes of how to do certain things to, get your shop up and running and successful. Basically cliff notes from step-by-step notes on how to do things. So if you want like a visual check-off list of, do this and then that and then this, and then you can follow it that way. Those will also be available for download, so you can print those out and follow along, or again, just listen to the audio. In addition, there will be special members only discounts with companies and partners that I have that I am affiliated with. So Craftsy, Creative Live, Creative Bug. I am working with them to give special members only discounts and exclusive discounts on classes and courses and services. These are discounts that won't be available outside of the membership, outside of the paid membership section. I will negotiate, or have negotiated, special discounts and rates for classes, and these will be changing based on demand and what people want to learn. And so again, that will be available to the paid members. And there will be some other things, other perks that are going to be available. All that will be, you can read about all what you get with paid membership at convome.com. Once that launches, you'll see that launch in 2017. It's actually almost ready to go, but I just wanted to start fresh with the new year and launch it from at the top of the year. So how much is this going to cost? I understand that a lot of people who start out on Etsy aren't yet making any money before, when they first start out. And even if you are making money, I just wanted this resource to be easily accessible to anyone who wanted to avail themselves of it. So when this launches, the charge or the fee is going to be $5 a month for monthly membership. And if you choose to subscribe to an annual membership, it's going to be $50 for the year. And that's about all the information on it that I planned to share here. Again, there's going to be a lot more information on the website at convome.com, and I hope you find it useful. I've put in a lot of time and effort and resources into making this available to you, and I really hope that it's something that will be of benefit to you. And if it is, I hope that you will also spread the word to new sellers or other sellers who you feel that it would be a valuable resource to as well. And I wish you a happy new year, and I will see you on the other side in 2017.
Thank you for listening. You can subscribe to the podcast in iTunes, and while you're there, please leave a review too. Visit convome.com to leave a comment or feedback on this episode.